Let's talk about the debt ceiling, stimulus, the whole shebang. Take a drink of coffee or tea if you'd like.
It's just hot water.
Janet Yellen yesterday came out and warned Congress that, look, you guys better figure this out, this debt ceiling, because we are up against a wall of epic proportions. Now, you remember, of course, back in, what was it, September, Mitch McConnell basically, I guess, threw 11 of his Republican colleagues under the bus by saying, hey, just go and vote for this thing. Just go and let's kick it down the can. Let's kick the can down the street a little bit. So they were able to go along with Democrats, and they were able to pass a debt ceiling extension through December. Well, here we are. We knew this was coming up. Why they just do these like little 3 months delays, I don't know. So now they've kicked this can down the alley.
Idioms are not our thing today. We can't get any of them out. So let's just not do them.
Highway.
No more.
Where do you kick a can?
You kick the can down the. I don't
road,
know.
Right?
Most kids
Let's just
in the backyard.
not. We're wasting our time. Okay,
Grover,
what they're
where do you
doing is
kick a can?
procrastination.
Yeah, they're doing procrastination nation. So Janet Yellen comes out yesterday and says, hey, Congress, get your crap together. We've got a new deadline. It is now December 15th. She issued a warning, by the way. She said, and I'll read exactly from her statement. She said, yesterday the president signed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which appropriates $118 billion for the Highway Trust Fund. These funds must be transferred to the Highway Trust Fund within 1 month after the enactment of the legislation, and the transfer will be completed on December 15th. Promptly thereafter, the funds will be invested in non-marketable treasured securities subject to the debt limit. Basically saying, hey, we just passed this thing. We're going to default on our own bill that we just passed, essentially.
Yes.
Money that's going to the highways. So we're all excited about the President Biden $1.2 trillion, infrastructure bill.
And she's like, we can't afford that with the current economic rules.
Right. So you need to change the rules fast.
This is just comical. It's like one side, I'm going to try an idiom. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
Exactly. Yes.
Nailed that one.
Janice doesn't know what Karen is doing.
Yes, it is crazy town, but she has been saying it all along. She's basically begging, hyperventilating over there, saying we need a permanent solution. And Congress is pretending she's not even speaking words. They're like, yeah, that's it. We're going to get to that. We got our own agenda to get reelected. This is what we want. But
Mitch McConnell has no intention. Mitch McConnell, the Republican minority leader, has no intention of going along with Democrats wanting to increase the debt ceiling. He is going to once again pretend that he had nothing to do with it, which is what happened last time.
Yes.
We can't in good conscience raise the debt ceiling as if we didn't have anything to do with it. Remember, raising the debt ceiling is to pay debt obligations that were incurred when he was the majority leader of the Senate and President Trump was president of the United States.
yes,
So these debt obligations were already figured out. They were already
they were obligated. It's as if you bought a house together as a couple. You and President Trump, Mitch McConnell, you signed the mortgage, right? And then you come along now, you're no longer in power, and you're like, I don't want to pay that mortgage payment. But you agreed to it then.
Yeah, so you mean
signed.
we can't do that? We can't just not pay our mortgage?
If you're not in power, like,
Right.
oh, we're not in power anymore. Let's pretend that mortgage is not in my name.
Like, David, you don't have to pay your car payment anymore. Like, you don't,
What? Awesome.
don't even worry about it, right?
Thank you.
That's the way government operates. Why can't we operate that way, right?
Well, the thing is, they don't listen to 80% of their constituency when they have a majority of their constituency that's like, hey, we want this. Yellen's not a donor, so.
Right.
She's not. But again, she has been warning doom and gloom all basically since the spring because she's seen this coming. And what's irresponsible, I'm going to say, in my opinion, is to continue to pretend that these things exist in a vacuum. So there's social stimulus, there's human stimulus, there's debt, and we just keep going around the horn, dealing with one thing at a time and not at all dealing with them holistically. And the point, David, you always make is that we're also spending millions on, war and bombing and all, and none of those things get debated. Those just we sign that, we pay for that. It's the stuff on top for some reason. The cream that rises, the things that we actually debate upon are things that they just want us to see. There's so much that they don't want us to see, and we pretend that it's not a connected system.
Yeah, and Democrats right now are looking towards trying to get this other stimulus package out amidst this entire mess right now. So the $1.7 trillion Build Back Better plan is being rebranded this morning. So this is all part of this debt ceiling stuff, because you've got the debt ceiling thing that they need to deal with immediately, as Janet Yellen warns Congress about that. But then they're also trying to pass this Build Back Better plan, but they're also facing massive inflation. So Democrats right now are on a bit of a PR move. And so the move of the morning from Chuck Schumer is that they are now basically saying, hey, if you want to get rid of inflation, want to fight inflation, then support the Build Back Better plan. That's their new moniker that they've come up with yesterday. This is, look, we're going to tackle this. We saw this yesterday, actually, with Pete Buttigieg, who's the transportation secretary. He was out doing an interview on the White House lawn. And he said, look, this first round of stimulus, this $1.2 trillion stimulus plan, is already tackling inflation, which I still can't wrap my head around exactly how that's happening. Like how is building roads and bridges, and by the way, you just passed it. Yeah,
no, but
how does it tackle inflation?
Maybe through trickle-down economics, which they don't like.
But it doesn't work well, first of all, we know trickle-down economics don't work.
And it's a talking point that the Democratic Party likes to speak against.
But how does it lower prices?
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's that they say these things arbitrarily and get people, oh, it's going to lower this, it's going to lower that. Oh, I'm in. And then the people get out there and they argue on Twitter and they push this bill. And then once it's passed, they're like, oh, it didn't do that. Sorry, we were just saying that.
How is it going to lower?
That's nonsensical.
Lowering prescription drug prices, I get that, but that has nothing to do with inflation, right? Prescription drug prices
that's not in the infrastructure plan. That's in the human stimulus plan.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So what they're saying is we had some of that already. Pete Buttigieg said yesterday, we had some of this inflation lowering moves yesterday, thanks to the infrastructure plan. Right? And now we need more of it, because we're going to be able to lower prescription drugs. We're going to lower childcare costs, overall expenses related to raising families. Now, I get you're going to be giving checks out to families, right? You're going to be giving $3,600 checks to families as part of the family tax credit. But that doesn't lower inflation, okay? Let's be clear.
Prescription drugs have nothing to do with supply and demand economics.
Exactly. They're artificially raised prices because Pfizer wants to rip people off.
Yes.
So it has nothing to do with inflation.
There's nothing sensical in that. We shouldn't even be discussing it. But this is stupid.
Well, we should be discussing it because these are our Senate leaders right now. This is This is Chuck Schumer literally saying, want to fight inflation? Support the Build Back Better plan.
To me, this is just business as usual. When have they not done this? It's like they start these PR campaigns. They get us all excited because it's going to have paid family leave. It's going to have this. It's going to have this. And this is going to benefit you so much. And then the stuff that benefits us gets stripped away. It's a wet kiss to Wall Street. And so they're like, oh, no, people are starting to revolt. How can we sell this again? Oh, just tell them it's going to end inflation. Okay.
Well, both parties will be selling this. The Republicans who didn't vote for the infrastructure plan are still going to go and cut the ribbon with the big scissors.
Of course they will.
So let's not pretend.
And let's not pretend also, if something starts benefiting Mitch McConnell's district, like he did during, remember, we reported it here a year ago when the stimulus package had rolled out that was passed by President Biden. It was having really good impact back home in Kentucky, and he voted against it. And yet he was there at that press conference saying, well, state got a lot of money, and these hospitals here got a lot of money. So it did benefit the state of Kentucky, and yet he was trying to take a victory lap for it.
Well, and he's like, I don't want to spend all this money. We're worried about the money. Oh, my wife just took a PPP loan.
Yeah, I don't like all this spending, but Elaine's doing pretty good. But
well, okay, but I follow a lot of entrepreneurial types of newsletters, like the Wealthability Network and such. So Tom Wheelwright, he's been going on a diatribe, and it's great. The Wealthability podcast, I think, is really eye-opening about how much Democrats think that we have a blank checkbook and that there's no need to pay any of it back, and how it will have repercussions. But if you have a business and you can claim loss in any one of these quarters, you're eligible for basically free government money. Business school will teach you that if there's a tax-friendly way of getting money, you should absolutely do it. So I'm not against someone who can prove eligibility from taking a loan, even if you're against government spending. I don't have a problem with that.
Well,
do you want to tell me why you have a problem with that?
No, I mean, we've already been down this rabbit hole about Elaine Chao and
if you're if you are in the government or a spouse of the government, you shouldn't be able to take advantage of any of these government programs because they obviously don't need the money.
Yeah. I mean, getting hundreds of thousands of dollars. They actually gave it back because they said it was a mistake. And you had a lot of these big companies that were basically saying they were small businesses and then they were taking these loans and giving them back.
Okay, yes. You're right. The spousal privilege is a problem, but
yeah.
Okay.
All right, rabbit hole. But
Yes,
I do want to say, the average Americans right now are seeing a huge spike in costs across the board. Gas prices are going to continue to go up. Gas prices are probably going to go up an additional 10 or even 12%. So we're seeing gas prices. We're seeing home heating bills, which we've just started now to turn on the heat for a lot of Americans, right? In some states, not yet, but some others they're looking at me going, Clayton, we've had the heating on for about a month now. So that's going up. The cost of everything is going up. But again, this has nothing to do with an infrastructure bill or a stimulus. But if you watch like mainstream media, you watch like MSNBC, they think that you're fine with this. They think that you're not going to pay it doesn't really matter because you've just got plenty of money in the bank. Watch how these corporate Wall Street news anchors think about you as average Americans. Watch.
And the dirty little secret here, Willie, while nobody likes to pay more, on average, we have the money to do so. Household savings hit a record high over the pandemic. We didn't really have anywhere to go out and spend. And as we said a moment ago, we're expecting retail sales this holiday season to break records. For those who own their homes, the value of our homes are up. And while the stock market isn't the economy, you got over half of American households with some investment in the markets, and the markets have hit record highs. So we need to put all of this in perspective. This time last year, when you and I were talking, Willie, nobody had a vaccine. Now 200 million Americans do, and we're seeing this push of demand, and that's pushing up pricing.
Yeah, man. You guys,
you're fine.
You're fine. I love the beginning of this.
And the dirty little secret here, Willie.
This is a dirty little secret. I hope everyone paying attention to this. This is a dirty little secret.
While nobody likes to pay more, on average, we have the money to do so.
We have money. You guys don't even worry about it. If
How many of you
you
in the
don't
chat
have money,
saved money
you have
during the
credit
pandemic?
cards.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you have. It's like that.
What did you say, David? I'm sorry.
Well, I just was asking chat. How many of you in chat have created a savings during the pandemic?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're fine.
Like, bring
You're
it on.
fine.
Bring on the inflation.
How many of you really want and can pay more for heating your house?
It's a dirty little secret. It's a dirty little secret that you guys have. Don't worry about it. You have all this extra money laying around and inflation. First of all, I love how out of touch these people are. Think about this. So just because Wall Street is doing well, that means that you're doing well. Just because some of your stocks in your portfolio are doing well, how does that translate to cash in your pocket? And how does that translate to the cost of your Triscuits going down? It doesn't. It has
I
nothing
think
to do
what
with
she's
it.
saying is that consumer spending is still up.
Yes, it is.
The volume of spending continues to raise, even though the price of things continue to raise, and that is not a normal occurrence, right?
Well, it is because people need to eat, so they're going to have to still pay for their heating.
It's still luxury goods that are selling. It's still like a third pair of sneakers. It's still luxury bags. And so what she's saying is that there is overall more tolerance for spending, even though costs are going up, which is not what you would assume would happen in a normal law of supply and demand.
So she's fine. She's totally fine. She's able to buy those extra handbags and do those extra
Well,
things.
we don't know. You don't need to be derisive, but
Yes, I do.
It's like that 30 Rock episode where Avery becomes a news anchor in North Korea. And she's like, in other news, you've had enough to eat. That's the whole, she's telling you you're fine, so you must be fine.
Like she's a news anchor for the North Korean.
For the North Korean state, because
Right.
she's been captured by Kim Jong-il.
Oh, that's right. Because
And she's like, in other words,
you've only had one meal today. In other news, you've had enough to eat. You only
That's
need
the whole story.
only need one meal. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So again, that's where we are right now with Democrats trying to do the rebrand to fight inflation. But I should mention there are a number of stimulus checks that are now going to be sent out to Americans in 14 different states. So the states have basically said, you know what, we've had it with Congress. We're going to take matters into our own hands. Some of them have been sitting on large surpluses, California being one of them, and they are about to send out checks to Americans. So I'm going to go through a number of states here that are about to receive some good money in stimulus checks. $2,000, $1,000, depends on the state. Let's start with Arizona. Arizona, for out-of-work residents there, can take advantage of the state's Back to Work program, and they're eligible for $1,000 checks. And if you're returning to full-time work, you get an additional $2,000 bonus check if you're taking a job and going back to work. So the state's putting that out there. California also, a salary of $30,000 up to $75,000 per year. Qualified California residents will receive $600 and $1,100 for those children under the age of 18. Connecticut also is going to be getting checks, $1,000 in stimulus checks started on May 20th or May 30th. They're going to continue it now through their Back to Work program through the end of this year. So that's good in Connecticut. Florida is also doing this, $1,000 stimulus checks going out, $1,000 stimulus in Georgia for teachers and principals. If you're an educator in Georgia, but they're not giving out anything else there. Idaho is giving out more than half of their residents, 500,000 residents there. 500,000 people are going to get a check of $248. They're giving a one-time income tax rebate, just as like a, hey, we know you're struggling kind of a thing. Maryland also is giving $300, and children, individuals get $300 checks, and children will receive $500 checks in the state of Maryland. Michigan is giving teachers a $500 stimulus bonus. New Hampshire is giving $1,000, $1,086 to families of 3 without any income, up to families of 3 without any income right now in New Hampshire. New Mexico giving out $750 checks. Ohio, $46 million worth of grant money is still available for students in Ohio that want to take advantage of that. Oklahoma has a $13 million federal funding program to pay student teachers in Oklahoma. Tennessee is giving $1,000 checks away and $500 for part-time public employees. And finally, Vermont is giving away, the state is covering moving expenses for people relocating to the state. So if you want to move to Vermont, they will give you $7,500 to cover your move into Vermont. This seems like a good time of the year to move to Vermont, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think
like really.
I'm going to go pack up.
Yeah, $7,500 to move to Vermont. They're not giving a direct payout, but they will reimburse you for anyone who. And you have to be moving there if you work in the hospitality or construction industry, because they need
Imagine that
construction
red
workers.
tape. Oh, you're a construction worker, but you didn't bring your own hammer. Sorry, you didn't read the fine print.
Yeah. And Samantha says the Chickasaw Nation, is it Chickasaw? Yeah, Chickasaw Nation is giving $2,000 to Chickasaw citizens. So there you go. So that's a roundup of now these are all the states. We're still waiting to see if there's going to be some additional stimulus check in this Build Back Better program above and beyond the family tax credit. There has been discussion about that, so we'll see if that makes its way in there. But ports are loosening up right now. The Los Angeles port has been open, so we've had about 16 days now of like lessening of that. So things are getting back to normal, and there's going to be less and less likelihood that Congress is going to have an appetite to want to spend a whole lot more money.
I'm actually shocked that all this economy stuff and all this hasn't been blamed on Russia yet.
It's getting there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's teetering on that.
Yeah, we saw like this. The other day there was a Russia story. There's always a Russia story, like once every few days. Like Russia shot a satellite out of space, and now there's space debris all over space, and
they made a mess in space, and the astronauts had to dive away from it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks to the Russians.
Yeah, we are the only ones that can trash space. Come on.
Right.
Right.
We have our space junk up there.